Today we're going to talk about how a large public institution achieved their course evaluation goals with EvaluationKIT. Your agents for today are myself. I'm Peter Pravikoff. I head up sales and marketing with EvaluationKIT. And I was just counting earlier, this is actually my 5th Instructure Con. Very first one for me was the MC Hammer year when MC Hammer came out and interrupted the corporate keynote. So it's been a really fun run. Excited to be here today talking with all of you. I'm joined by my colleague Brian Broniak from Virginia Tech, also secret agent. We're going to kind of tag team today's session. The objectives really will be for me first to give you a little bit of an overview of EvaluationKIT, the company, our partnership with Instructure, and then our solution and integration. I'll then turn things over to Brian to talk a little bit about Virginia Tech's needs, some improvements they realized in using EvaluationKIT, and ultimately results generated. And we ought to have some time at the end for debrief, aka questions and answers. All right? So, a quick introduction to EvaluationKIT. We've actually been around for 10 years. The company was founded specifically to develop and deliver solutions for online course evaluation in higher education. Makes us a little bit unique. This is all we do. It's all we've done for 10 years. We've grown to serve over 350 institutions in higher education, ranging from large public and private research institutions, Virginia Tech, Florida State, small private liberal arts colleges, community colleges, and really every institution type in between. We don't have a quote-unquote type of customer. Happy to work with all institutions. Every year, over 13 million student surveys are administered across all of our client institutions. We're thought leaders in the industry. Our president and co-founder was one of the very first people to work in the area of online course evaluation, and some of the early work he did nearly 20 years ago led to the first big-scale online course evaluation implementations in higher education. And as you'll see as we go through today, we haven't rested on our laurels. We're constantly developing, looking for ways to continue to innovate and improve the course evaluation process for colleges and universities. And the metric I think we're proudest of is the fact that we've been able to maintain a customer renewal rate of over 98% over time, which is absolutely great. We are a premier alliance partner with Instructure. We've actually been a partner for over 4 years now. We were the first in our space to partner with Instructure when we recognized the momentum that they were carrying. First in our product category with the automated survey notifications within Canvas, which we'll talk about. And a couple years ago, we were invited by our partners to elevate our partnership to their top level tier, the alliance partnership level focused on U.S. higher education. And then finally, last year we were recognized with a Coty Award for the best post-secondary enterprise solution. If you're not familiar with the Cotys, I like to joke that they're the Oscars for geeks, and I can assure you this time they got the envelope right. All right, so in terms of the solution, we don't have time to go into a detailed overview. I'm going to give you just a quick snapshot of all of the things we do, and then we're really going to hone in on the way that we integrate with Canvas. EvaluationKIT is designed to be a comprehensive end-to-end course evaluation solution. It starts with tools that allow you to author your own surveys using your questions and formatting, your response scales. Then you're able to create your own survey projects, which you deploy each semester with features that allow you to customize the projects. If you have different entities on campus that want to do things different ways, you've got the ability to customize for those. We've got a very streamlined data integration with Canvas that allows you to pull in your course and your user information from Canvas. The ability to have flexible and dynamic survey content so that different types of courses can have different sets of questions in their evaluations. You're not locked into one format for all. And then the ability to automate the communications that go out throughout your survey process to your students, but also to your faculty and to your administrators. Of course, a key part of this whole process is student access, and we provide a very integrated student experience with seamless survey access in Canvas, which we'll highlight today, and the ability to also supplement that with email notifications to communicate with students around the survey process. And then that's all tied together at the end with automated results distribution. So you can take the results of these course evaluations and have those distributed automatically to your instructors, your administrators, and students if you're an institution that shares course evaluation results with your student population. So that's what we do kind of in a nutshell. What I'd like to do now is just really focus in on the way that we integrate with Canvas, and we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that in more detail. There's two components to our Canvas integration. There's our Canvas user integration, which facilitates that user experience between the two systems, and our Canvas data integration. The first one I want to talk about in a second will be data integration, but this gives you just a summary of all of the features we've baked into each of these integrations. Everything from automated survey notifications and course blocking, integrated Canvas messages, and then the ability to provide access to results for instructors and administrators through Canvas as well, all baked into the user integration, which we're going to preview. The Canvas data integration allows a survey administrator to leverage information in Canvas to populate your course evaluation process with features to auto-refresh enrollments, the ability to support Canvas groups and custom roles, as well as the ability to import the Canvas hierarchy to establish that same structure and evaluation kit. So ultimately, very robust set of features for integration with Canvas. We were the first ones to develop this integration, and we've continued to enhance these integrations over time. So, the Canvas data integration. In a nutshell, this allows you to leverage the data you have in Canvas to populate your course evaluation process, right? The online evaluation needs to know which courses are being surveyed, which students are enrolled in those courses, which instructors are teaching those courses. And our data integration with Canvas allows you to pull that information from Canvas into EvaluationKIT seamlessly. This is an example of the administrative interface. So a little bit small, but basically what we're doing here is identifying Canvas as our data source and determining which courses we want to import from Canvas. Maybe it's all of our fall 2017 courses. Maybe it's all of our fall 17 courses except for any courses in this list of 50 which we want to exclude. So you can filter for the courses that you want to include in this survey, and then tell the system that you want to import not only the course information, but also the student and the instructor information. And all of the necessary data properties from the course and the student record and the instructor record flow right into your course evaluation project so that those courses are now set up to be surveyed in the system. In addition, there is a Canvas enrollment refresh feature. So you import the data initially, and everything's great, right? The enrollments are accurate as of that point in time. But what happens if some students drop or withdraw from courses before you've actually deployed your surveys? Our Canvas enrollment refresh feature allows you to automatically sync the enrollments between Canvas and EvaluationKIT surveys to make sure you've got the freshest list of enrollments at the point that your surveys are deployed. And you can set this schedule up to coincide with specific dates and times, or you can set it up to run on a routine basis where the system will just automatically refresh those enrollments according to whatever rules you've set up. So that's our data integration. The next integration I want to talk about is what we term our Canvas user integration. And the user integration is really a collection of features and functionality designed to tie the user experience between EvaluationKIT and Canvas together. Ultimately, it's geared towards encouraging access and participation in the process. Access to surveys by students and participation in the evaluations, as well as access for faculty members to the results, which we'll cover. So want to start with just kind of the Canvas student user experience. What happens if you're a student and you've got a survey to take? If you do, the system will interrupt you, and the student's notified, hey, you've got course evaluations to take. You're able to customize the messaging that you deliver to your students at that point. Ultimately, your goal is to direct them to the survey. And when they click Go to Survey, it takes them right into their dashboard. Now, this is EvaluationKIT in the center here, right? Framed up within the Canvas interface. So a very, very seamless user experience for your students where they're able to then select the survey they want to take. That survey opens up right within the Canvas interface, gives them an opportunity to answer the questions, provide that feedback, and then submit the survey. When they submit the survey, instant gratification, and they receive an on-screen confirmation just reminding them of the course that they have just completed the evaluation for, but conveniently presenting them with the additional evaluations they still need to take, figuring, strike while the iron's hot. The students in feedback mode, might as well present the rest of the surveys to them and have them hopefully complete those on the spot. You may have noticed there was a do it later option on that survey notification, so if I go back real quick to right here. Okay, so in this option, we had a go to survey button and a do it later option. The do it later option is actually something that you can suppress. So if you want to force students to go to the survey and not allow them into the course until they have done so, you can give them that opportunity. Then if you want to give them an out later in the process, you've got that flexibility as well. In addition to that, those Canvas features, the survey notification, we've added a number of new features to this integration that allow you to continue to customize the student experience, again, with an aim towards getting students to complete your surveys. We've got survey widgets that will show up on the student dashboard or on the instructor's course that provides access to the system. A dynamic link to surveys and course navigation. That link appears when surveys begin. It disappears when the student completes a survey or if the survey period expires automatically. We've added the ability to use Canvas messaging to notify students that they have surveys to take, and you can bake in the LTI link in that message so when the student reads it and clicks the link, they're taken directly into their surveys. And we've also added grade blocking. So some institutions may want the student to be able to get into the course, but may want to prevent them from getting into the gradebook until they've completed the survey. Some institutions wouldn't want to do that. The good news is it's an option, the feature exists, and each institution can choose which way they want the student experience to work in EvaluationKIT. The flip side of that is Gradebook Points. So there's another component to our Gradebook integration that allows an instructor to add a number of points they want to use as an incentive to take surveys. And when the student takes a survey, those points are automatically added to their area of the gradebook. We also feature calendar notifications. So, you can really choose how you want to notify and promote your survey process to students using any of these different features to encourage access and participation. Now, that student experience, we also provide user integration for your faculty and administrators so that they can use Canvas as a jumping off point into their EvaluationKIT account to look at results, etc. In EvaluationKIT, the system administrator is able to define in advance when results should be available to faculty and when they should be available to other administrators. So if you want administrators to have access right away and you want to delay that access a little bit for faculty, perhaps until final grades have been submitted, you've got the ability to set it up accordingly. And then on the appointed dates and times, those results are available. And so as a faculty member, I click the link in my Canvas course, I'm taken right into my dashboard in EvaluationKIT, where I can access the results from the most recent evaluations, but all of the data from my past evaluations will be there as well. So if I want to compare my results this term to the results over past terms, it's one click away through the integration with Canvas. And there are a variety of different types of reports that you can provide. This is a sample of a standard course summary report in EvaluationKIT where, as an instructor, I can see item by item analysis for each of the survey questions. I can see my mean, standard deviation, and median. I also have the ability to look at benchmark information if the institution has provided benchmarks in these reports, so that as an instructor, I can compare my rating on a particular question across perhaps other courses in my department, or maybe across the entire school or college. So that's a quick summary of EvaluationKIT, our partnership with Canvas, and more specifically, the way that our product integrates with the Canvas interface. At this point, what I'd like to do is turn things over to my colleague, Brian Broniak from Virginia Tech, to talk a little bit about their experience with EvaluationKIT.
Which way is it?
Yep, that one.
Thanks, Peter. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Broniak from Virginia Tech. I'm just going to share some of our experiences with EK. It helps that you can make an informed choice about what you may want to do with your course evaluations. So let me give you some background so you understand the scope and size of our university first. So we've got about 31,000 students and 2,500 teachers that use Canvas every day, and EvaluationKIT for that matter. So that results in 150,000 or so surveys during a fall or spring semester. In terms of our semesters, we run 5 per year, a fall, a short winter semester, a spring, and 2 summer sessions. In each of these semesters, we run course evaluation at the end of the term. So we do it all 5 times per year. We have 4,500 course sections and 3,000 courses during our fall or spring semester. So it's a big scope. I wanted to put these over so you understand how many courses, how many students are involved. And we have about 100 departments on campus, over 8 different colleges. Each of these departments want some control over the evaluation process, the data, how it works. They want to have some control over, some say over how it works for them. We've been doing online evaluations fully campus-wide since 2012, so we have a lot of experience with this. 2012 is when we adopted the Sakai course evaluation tool as our main tool, so we started back then. But over the past 2 years, we've been on a big project to move from Sakai fully to Canvas. Sakai at our campus is used for 4 purposes: e-portfolios, project sites, courses, and evaluations. So it was a big deal to move everything. And we did all 4 projects in parallel over the past 2 years. So fall of 16, we went live with EvaluationKIT. So that's a year ago, almost a year. 2 other quick notes. We call our process SPOT, Student Perceptions of Teaching. If I use the term SPOT, that's just our course evaluation name. That's what we call it internally. Lastly, Virginia Tech was the birthplace of the Sakai course evaluation tool. So that's interesting to know. With attention, we have very rigorous requirements, very stringent requirements. We started the custom development in 2006. It was taken over by other schools over the years, but we eventually used that at our university as well. So our overall results, EvaluationKIT really met our needs. As many of you would do, you create a big list of requirements when you start your project. We need to switch systems. What do? Let's get a big list of requirements together. I was amazed the first time, I was telling Peter today, first time we got on a call with EvaluationKIT, he started running through the features. I had a checklist. I'm checking every box off, hit all of our needs. Not only did it hit the needs, our true requirements, it hit my wish list items. We had a long list of things we really wanted this Sakai tool to offer that we didn't have time to build. No other schools built. The wish list items were also covered from day one, right out of the box. So that was very helpful. In terms of my experience in IT, I've been in this industry for 25 years. This has been the best match of a product to requirements I've ever seen. It really just hit everything we needed and worked really well in all facets of the requirements. At the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a link, and you can get this online later. The top 10 reasons why SPOT powered by EvaluationKIT is better than Sakai SPOT. That was our marketing push. We use this with our faculty, our staff, our students on campus to say, why did you switch? What was the benefits? What do you get from this? Why are we doing this? There's a list. I'm going to hit some of those highlights now from the top 10 list. But the top 10 is a one simple PDF with our bullet point list you can look at later. So first area of improvements that we saw in terms of the LMS integration and the user interface. Peter showed you some of the slides a minute ago. It's great because students can take the evaluation right from within the Sakai. There's a frame in Sakai, there's a frame within Canvas you take your evaluations. In Sakai, we had an external site. So while it was still Sakai, it was a completely independent site. This is now integrated, it's really nice. The notifications are really powerful. You're going to see a few things I've labeled as response rate booster, RRB. These are things that help with our response rates. When I get to the end of my slides, I'll show you some of the data. We have a very good increase in response rates. So pop-ups, the calendar integration help. Our Sakai system was email only. Email works for some students. Email doesn't work for some students. This is a lot more flexible in terms of getting the word out to students if there's a survey to be taken. Faculty and departments can add their own questions in a stable and friendly user interface. Sakai had the capability to do this in theory, but the UI was buggy, it was slow, it was hard to use. We never rolled it out to our faculty because we were nervous we couldn't support it. EK eliminated that problem completely. We rolled it right out, and our faculty add their own questions at their desire. Last note on this, in terms of the UI, the responsive design makes it work great on any device, an iPad, a laptop, a tablet, a phone. It's very very easy to use on any device. We also saw improvements in terms of data and reporting. Peter mentioned Instructure benchmarks a little while ago, so this is really powerful. On reports, you can compare yourself to your peers in your college or your department. There's extensive reporting capabilities built right in. Our old Sakai system, we had PDS at the end and we had a data warehouse, but now faculty and staff can run reports directly in with a robust set of reporting features built right into EK, which is very helpful. I like the data comes from Canvas. Our old process was a batch process from our SDS, which is Banner. So we take Banner data, we load it to Sakai. It was a big batch. What that meant for us is once we loaded it, it was locked. So we would load this, say, 3 weeks before the end of the semester. It was locked in. As Peter mentioned before with EK, there's a refresh, for example, for rosters and courses. Our Sakai setup, once we locked it was locked. There was no refresh, no updates. You were kind of just stuck with what you got. So the data is a lot more easy to manage in that regard. The last thing, as I mentioned before, too, is departments and teachers can edit the teacher list and the rosters. With Sakai, we didn't have this at all. So much easier for the campus to manage. Lastly, in terms of improvements, we've seen IT labor savings. This is a pretty big deal for a lot of us in this room, I'm sure. We were spending 3 to 5 man days per semester of developer time. This is programmers. This is not just support people. Programmers running 5 times a year, 3 to 5 days per semester to run this big batch, get everything configured, checked out, do data quality checks. It's pretty expensive. This is now been eliminated completely. All the work can now be done by a single person. It's gone so well that our Office of Assessment is taking this over from my group. It's been an IT job for the past 7 years. Now we're turning over to the operations group to run, and so the Office of Evaluation can run this themselves, configure it, and manage it for their needs, which is a huge improvement. The other thing is, as I said before, we push more responsibility out. Colleges and departments can do more things now, which is less support tickets for us. For example, they can add questions, as I said before. They can control the teachers, view response rates. All these things reduce the burden on my team in terms of questions we get. So overall, if you have a tight budget, I think EK can help you spend less and still provide a great experience for faculty, staff, and students in terms of course eval. My last 2 slides are some results, some hard results, some numbers. So I'm going to show you some slides or some graphs. This first one, the gray line is EvaluationKIT. The other 3 lines are the previous fall semesters prior to fall of 16. So you may think, well, maybe it's a new system. Did you change things around? It's really apples to apples. We did not change our reminder frequency to our email communications. We did not touch our instrument. It's the same survey questions. So I feel very good with apples to apples comparison. You can see it's pretty deterministic. Look at those lines below. They're almost exactly the same. I can predict how many students will respond any given day pretty much by a formula. Well, you see we got a 20% jump just using EvaluationKIT. As I mentioned the RRBs before, 4 prime reasons I think resulted in this response rate improvement. First of all, the pop-up in Canvas. When you log in and take a course evaluation, when the survey period's open, you get a configurable pop-up. A pop-up with language you can put in there to tell students, okay, it's time to take your eval. So that's very helpful. The calendar reminder is good as well. That really helps. All devices definitely helps. You're able to take them on a laptop or a phone, wherever you want, wherever you want, it helps with response rates. And finally, one of my favorite features is Instructure real-time monitoring. In Sakai, we didn't have this at all. Now we do. Throughout the open period, instructors can log into a dashboard and see where they are any given day. It allows them to course correct. They can ask their students, hey, why is no one taking the survey? Could you please take the surveys? So the real-time monitoring is a big deal for us. Sakai didn't offer that in any way. So the other question you may have is this sustainable? We had one semester, 20%. That's great. So we were very curious to see, would this hold up in the spring semester? Sure enough, it did. So here's our data. It's a slightly different view. This is responses by day. The last one was an aggregate. This is just by day to show you counts. In those 2 days, the first day 1, day 4, we got over 10,000 responses on those days alone. The gray bars again are this current spring semester. But we saw a 20% improvement again. So we've run 2 full semesters university-wide, both a very clear 20% improvement in response rates. I think everyone in this room, if you're here, you're probably interested, you know about this field. Response rates is a pretty big deal, a measure of success or failure in terms of course evaluation. We've had great success in response rates. And again, the spikiness you see in this is because we do emails every 3 days. So even though there are pop-ups in Canvas and there are calendar reminders, the email still is a push for students to take them. So that helps in some ways. So that's why you see on day 1, 4, and 7, you see some spikes, because those are days we send emails out. So I think we'll open up the questions at this point. Anyone?
And just before we open it up to questions, I just want to give sincere thanks to Brian for taking time to put this together and share his experiences. I know that's ultimately the most valuable part of any of these sessions, so very, very, very grateful. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead. Question. I'll repeat it so everyone can hear.
How do you manage when you have classes that are dynamically dated, so they don't start at, all classes don't start at the same time or end at the same time? How do you manage those evaluation kits?
Okay, so the question, just in case everybody couldn't hear, is how do you manage courses that have different start and end dates, and as a result, that are going to have different evaluation start and end dates, right? I'll start with that, and then maybe Brian can share their experiences. In EvaluationKIT, you're able to use course level survey dates. So each and every course conceivably could have its own survey start and end date. Now, you don't have to establish those manually. You actually have the ability to tie those to your course start and end dates in Canvas. So imagine you're importing 1,000 courses from Canvas, and half of those courses are 16-week courses and need to be evaluated at the end of that period. And the other half are 8-week courses, and they need to be evaluated at the end of that period. You simply tell the system, establish a 2-week survey period at the end of each respective course for each course. And by setting that rule up when you import, the system will insert course-specific survey start and end dates, and those surveys will open and close on the dates that they ought to.
Yeah, so I mentioned we generally do big 5 times a year, a big run at the end of our terms. But we do have situations where we have courses are studying abroad or a specific program that does not run a normal semester schedule for a university. In those cases, we use what Peter just mentioned. Most have custom dates just for those courses. So you have a project in EK, which is all your settings. You have multiple projects. So we have a project for a fall, a spring, a winter, and then we'll have a project for other. Yeah.
So do you have one project for the regular full term and then a separate project for dynamically dated?
That's the way we're doing it right now. So we have 5 per year that are full terms, and then we have one project that just stays open the whole year where we put all these other courses with unique schedules.
And other institutions may just have one project with, dynamically scheduled evaluations throughout that period. You're also able to dynamically schedule when the results are available. So if you're an 8-week instructor, you don't want to wait till, weeks after the 16-week period ends to get your results, and so you can automate that process as well. Next question.
So you went from 40% basically to 60% response rate. That's a pretty good jump.
Yeah.
What do you, other than sort of the integration aspect, do you attribute to anything else?
No, I really think that's why this is powerful, right? Switching systems, you think, well, why would that? It's the features, it's the new features. I think the Canvas pop-up itself is a huge driver. The fact that students log into Canvas every day, they get a pop-up and maybe say, you have a survey to take. Do you want to take? They can say, do it later, or they can take it immediately. But if they log in 2 hours later, pops back. Some students don't like this. They're like, can you please turn off these reminders? My answer is, if you do your surveys, the reminders they'll go away. Do your surveys.
Yeah.
But
And you don't withhold grades?
we don't withhold, no. Some of these new features they're coming up with, there's some potential, but we don't withhold grades. We just encourage people to do them, and we do the pop-up. There's a way, you can force the pop-up, actually, right? There's a way to force a pop-up, so.
Yeah, so our approach is to give you all the features and let you decide which ones you want to employ. And I never cease to be amazed at the spectrum of how institutions handle this process, with some wanting it to be very voluntary and some wanting it to be absolutely mandatory. Our goal is to want to be in a position to offer you all the features and you choose which ones to implement. For anyone interested in response rates and digging deeper on this topic, make a note of this slide, send an email, and we've got a white paper we're happy to provide to you that gives different strategies, some of which are technical and involve our system, some of which are more cultural, that share our experience in this field for the last 10 plus years on how to drive response rates.
And we've tried the cultural as well, and we've been at this for, as I said, we started Sakai fully online in 2012, so we're 5-6 years into fully university-wide online eval. But it's amazing how consistent the pattern. When you saw my graph, the pattern was very consistent. It's suddenly there's a jump. I mean, go back a slide, right? And look at this graph. It's the same every semester. There's a jump. So it's got to be the system. So.
Are all of your courses online? I mean, is everyone required to use Canvas?
So the question was, is everyone required to use Canvas? So what sort of adoption does Virginia Tech have that's then driving this participation through Canvas?
So we are now 100% on Canvas, but not every instructor has to use an LMS. They can use a website or nothing. But all of the evaluation, so you can run evaluations for courses that aren't taught via Canvas. We provision all of our courses university-wide. Whether or not they use Canvas as the instructor call, he or she can ignore it, not use it. They still get an eval though because we import them all. So our SAS feeds every course, regardless of how they're going to be taught, to Canvas. We pull every course into EK. There's a process where you have to copy. It's like a multi-layer copying. So SAS to Canvas to EK. We copy them all over to make sure everyone gets evaluations, even if they don't use an LMS.
And one of the things I'd just add to that, the way that the survey notification in Canvas can be implemented allows you to implement it at the login level. So if a student enrolled in 4 courses, only one of which is using Canvas, goes to log into that one course in Canvas, the survey notification is going to appear if they have any surveys to take an evaluation.
This also works when you're in a transition. So we had Sakai courses and Canvas courses for 2 years running in parallel. Instructors could pick, do I want to use Canvas or Sakai? When we moved evaluation to EK, all evals were in EK, but people were running courses in Sakai, people were running courses in Canvas. So it made our transition very easy to manage.
Yeah, question right here.
So 2 questions. First is, when I was at your booth and kind of looking at some of your material, you talked about the longitudinal data, so you can look back and see how, say, an instructor did a year ago versus today. How easy is that? Like, how friendly is that system to use? And do you have any, could you show me what that looks like?
So the first question is related to longitudinal data. I'll start by just saying that our policy is to maintain your course evaluation results in your production account for as long as you remain a customer. And some institutions actually bring their data with them when they sign up with us, which means that your faculty will have the opportunity to access that data over time as well. So the data is definitely there. The other part of that question relates to how easy is it for them to generate those results, and my answer would be very easy. There's an instructor results area in EvaluationKIT that allows an instructor to look at results for themselves, and they can choose any period of time or combination of courses that they want to look at, and they can generate those results in PDF format, like the sample that I showed earlier. They can also download their raw data results if you permit them to, store those offline, perhaps use them in another program if desired. I don't have an example of that report to show right this moment, but if you want to stop by our booth, today or tomorrow, we've got some examples on there that we can show you where an instructor can compare, okay, I've taught this, financial accounting course for 3 terms, and I want to compare instructor satisfaction ratings for students across the last 4 terms. And it'll give you that question, 4 terms. You can look at bar charts that clearly show how you've improved over time.
Perfect. So second question, kind of connected to that. We have been using SurveyMonkey for our student surveys for the past probably 6 years. So this is kind of a two-parter. Number one, what kind of importation do you have for EvaluationKit? Could we port over our questions, like our surveys, into EvaluationKit, or do we have to build it from scratch? And two, can we import old data?
Yeah. So question related to transitioning from one system, in this case SurveyMonkey, to EvaluationKit. In terms of the surveys, most institutions will simply recreate those using our survey builder, and it's pretty easy to do. We have an API that allows you to create survey questions through the API. Unless you have a lot of surveys, your best bet's probably going to be to just simply create those surveys using our survey builder. Once created, they're saved in your survey library and ready for you to use from that point forward. In terms of importing historical data, yeah, that's very easy. We provide that as a service. You let us know how much data over how much time. We actually create historic projects in EvaluationKit into which that historical data is imported. And once imported, then that becomes available for faculty and administrators to go back and look at point in time or longitudinally.
And is that an extra fee, or is that included in the...
There's a one-time extra fee associated outside of the license fee. That's quoted just based on how many records you want to import. Yeah.
So we have 1,000 surveys, about 1,000 different. We have a base survey most people take, but we have surveys specific to courses. Learning objective questions are tied to courses. So those we had, as I said before, you can distribute responsibility. We had department admins do that entry. I entered 1,000 surveys myself. I was able to distribute that work across to other people to enter those surveys.
I think that concludes our time today. I want to thank you all again for attending. Wish you a great conference, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk more over in the vendor area later. Thanks very much.